The Wednesday week is sponsored by the Riverside Cafe, the perfect place for a pre-match pint.
There's a chance here, a great save by Turner from McClare. A terrific goal by Sheridan. Brexman against Jones. Get in. You could have two goalkeepers in there, they would have double Vic saving.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday Week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and with me on the line, first of all, we have Mr. Marriott. James, the old bean, how the chuff are you?
I'm all right. Do you know, I don't think that was I don't think that was a good enough intro, to be honest, because you know I've got friends in high places now, so I've got my new best mate to do a little intro for me instead. So I'll just play that.
James does the Wednesday Week podcast. You know, he's a clever guy. He knows the team inside out.
For fuck's sake!
There we go.
Oh,
I've got a soundboard, so get used to it.
A clever guy.
It's gonna be, hang on.
Clever guy.
He doesn't know you at all, does he?
Clever guy.
He's clever.
He's a clever guy. He's a clever guy. He's a clever guy. He's a clever guy.
This is going to last for weeks. Weeks.
Well, it has to be said, Jay, you had a lovely, lovely, lovely time on the telly, didn't you, Albin?
I did. I don't remember that much about it, but yeah, it was great fun.
I must admit, I was so impressed because, as Wednesday Week listeners and as friends of James, we know that James does like a little bit of a tipple at the matches, and on the way to the matches, and during the matches, and maybe in the toilets during the matches, and basically whenever possible. And I must admit, Jay, I wouldn't have guessed that you were absolutely sloshed when you did that little bit for Channel 5.
I've not let my mum watch it. My mum was like, "Oh, can you show me the thing when you're on TV?" I'm like, "No, you're not seeing it, mum. Sorry."
Let me just play what Colin said about me. He said I was clever.
Oh, you want to know what Colin said about me? Hang on a second.
James does the Wednesday Week podcast. You know,
no.
he's a clever guy. He knows the team inside out.
Who put James in charge of the chuffing soundboard? Jesus Christ. And of course, we also have Dickie. How the chuff are you, old boy?
Well, I'm not clever. I'm not like the clever as that clever little Dick. But yes, I'm very well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm sat here now currently with about 3 browsers open on my varying websites. Yeah, 3 browsers. Yeah. Just covering the. It's not posh. I'm not middle class. We've had this discussion. I'm eating pork pie, so I'm definitely not as we speak. So I'm definitely not posh.
You're eating a posh pot pie. I bet you're eating a posh pot pie, Dickie.
It's just got a bit of cheese and a bit of Branston on it. That's not posh. I bought it from Barnsley. That's definitely not posh.
When you say on it, do you mean it hasn't got a top crust and it's got a filling on top, or you've just whapped some Branston pickle on the top of it?
No, the former. It's delivered without a top, and it has Branston and cheese on it. That's not posh.
Middle class
from Barnsley,
munching mother chuffer. Now, it does have to be said, we are recording this at 10 o'clock, so we've got an hour of the transfer window left. So if there are any updates as we are going along, that's why we waited until now, basically, because people do have a habit of doing lovely, lovely things once we finish recording the podcast, don't they, gents? And we seem to sort of release it. And
there's actually one just breaking as we're speaking, and it says roads move confirmed, offer accepted, nice 3-bed villa by the coast, moving October.
Nice. Do you remember we did this 12 months ago at the end of the transfer window? And I managed to get hold of, for if there were any deals during the last hour of the window. It didn't happen, but we had...
Yay!
We had the old bell. Now, I think we've moved on from then, and we can do better. And you really will regret putting me in charge of the soundboard. You know that. So, should there be any transfer activity during the hour when we're discussing things, you will hear in the background. Now, this lasts for a minute, but I can stop at any point. And when the transfer window closes, you will hear. So, for a transfer, when the window closes, I thank you.
Similar. They sound very similar.
We'll work it out. Something is bound to occur. So yes, we will be keeping an eye on the transfer detailage, and if anything does pop along, although you probably listen to this another day and you'll know already, it'll be exciting for us.
Just the most important feed I've got open now on my Twitter account is Transfers 11 account. So currently I've got everything that he's putting out coming out there. So Jacob Butterfield, Sam Winnell, Isaac Success, etc., etc.
Unfortunately,
Stop giving him publicity. Stop it.
I'm unable to see that particular account because he has blocked me for remorselessly extracting the urine.
I think he's blocked Fudge today as well. So
we've all blocked Fudge, haven't we?
Yeah, Fudge who?
Right. So before, obviously, whilst we are waiting for this wonderful transfer news that I'm sure is going to come, let's have a little chat about the previous Wednesday going on, shall we? Because we'll start off with the Burton game. Now, Burton are turning into a bit of a bogey team for us, aren't they? Well, played them 3 times, and we've never actually won the Chuffers yet, have we? But it did start a little bit iffily before the match, didn't it? I mean, what did you guys think of the start? Because were we hanging on, or were we letting them run out of puff?
This is where I always feel a little awkward, because you get these people that ring up Football Heaven. Oh, I think Wednesday were rubbish today. Have you been? No, I didn't go to Burton, so I feel a bit bad talking about it. So I think James is really authority on it because he was the man that was there.
Yeah. So it's not that I was glued to Twitter, but what was the question again? I just want to make sure I'm fully understanding the question before I answer it. That's all. I was listening.
The start of the Burton game. Were you concerned,
yes,
or did you think this was part of the plan to puff Burton out before we really started going at them?
I think Burton were always going to come at us from the off, because that's exactly what they did 12 months ago, or just over 12 months ago. So I think I think that's what they do to all teams at their places, that they try and kind of hit them quite early on, and I assume that was kind of their plan. We did seem a little more prepared for it this time than we were a year ago, and I think that we seemed a little more comfortable. I mean, when we played them last season, we had a complete defensive calamity, and I know we kind of feel like things are quite bad at the moment, but it was an absolute disaster last season when we played them, and we ended up with Samido and Poodle at centre back. Now, fair enough, obviously Poodle was still kind of playing centre back on Saturday, but he's a bit more used to playing there now. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't particularly worried, if I'm honest. I thought that we were kind of absorb that pressure a little bit. They did have a couple of half decent chances, but every team has chances in the game, and I just kind of thought maybe they'll just have their little spell at the beginning, and then we'll kind of grow into it. Is kind of what I was thinking.
So obviously I expect them to come out. So do you think it is Carlos that has said just hang back a bit, let's absorb some pressure, let's let them get it out of the system, and then went to them?
I suspect that's absolutely the case, but I don't think that's anything particularly exclusive to the fact that we were playing Burton. That does seem to be kind of the Carlos way now, doesn't it?
A lot of people will accuse Wednesday at the moment of starting slowly in matches, and obviously really breaking second half. I do honestly believe that this is a tick from Carlos and that's how he explains it to the players as well, you see, which is why it makes so much sense to essentially just puff them out. Because if you look at the games where we have played very, very well in second half, it is because the other team is absolutely knackered, isn't it? Is it, or am I just sort of reading too much into this?
What games are you talking about? Are you talking about Sunderland?
To an extent, Fulham as well.
Yeah, don't know. I whatever the tactic was against Burton, it didn't work, did it? I think we kind of dress it up and whatnot, but I think that there are games where this kind of starting slowly and try and wear them out just doesn't work, and I think we're seeing more of the games where it doesn't work anymore than games where it does work. You
were saying, James, last week when I spoke about Bolton that if we had a win at Burton, all would look rosy in the garden again, I think, for what better term. How does it look to you now after going and seeing the game?
I mean, I think there were probably a couple of people a little surprised with what I said on the Channel 5 thing, because it did kind of look like I kind of went knee-jerk.
You're on Channel 5, were you?
Do you want to know what
no,
But I honestly thought after Fulham, I thought, right, okay, the second half against Sunderland, the Fulham game, that was us turning the corner. And I expected us to kind of push on from that and go to Burton and not necessarily play them off the park. But, you know, you look at those teams on paper, you look at those two lineups on paper and you'd say, right, you know, whatever they throw at us, we've got enough in this game. We could even afford to concede and still win this game. So for me, I expected Burton to be the game where we push on. And actually, I probably, you know, I don't think any team's going to go there and play them off the park. But I expected a fairly convincing win, even if it was only like, you know, 1-0, 2-1, something like that. But to feel like, you know, that we were in control of the game, because I think that our team, our 11 was a lot better than their 11, and it seemed like almost the opposite of that. It seemed like we were never in charge of the game, that we didn't really know what to do to break them down. And you know, I kind of summed this up as to my mate and said, if that was a game on FIFA, right? If you were playing on FIFA with the forward line that we were playing against someone playing the back line that Burton had, you would absolutely wallop them. Because by all rights, that's what should have happened, and we weren't even close to that. We were way off, and it just wasn't right. And do you know the thing that worries me the most about it, or that's annoyed me the most about it, was the post-match interview from Carlos, because Carlos said that he thought that we were, what did he say, as good if not better than we played against Fulham, and that we were unlucky and this, that and the other. And I thought, right, if Carlos had come out and just said, all right, we weren't good enough today, we didn't create enough, and we didn't do enough to break them down, but we've got the international break now, so me and the players, we're going to go away, we're going to work on how we play so that we come back after the international break stronger. That's what I needed to hear from Carlos, and what I heard was, I've got to be honest, it was just really boring. It was just, God, I'm getting a bit bored of hearing this now. And I have been one of his biggest fans, and I've stuck up for him. And I'm certainly not saying that now I've suddenly decided he needs to go, but he's got some real thinking to do over this 2 weeks, and I hope he already is, because that on Saturday we didn't do enough to win that game. And if he thinks that was all right, then that's a real worry.
I think the last time we kind of heard this kind of comments was Dave Jones in his kind of the latter part of his career at Hillsborough, when he I remember him coming on Football Heaven regularly and just thinking it was all right, and people really wear these rose tinted spectacles that they think it's all right. For me now, we should be showing improvement game on game. I'm not expecting us to go from first gear right up to fourth gear in one game. Be nice, but you expect them to slowly improve, and I don't think we're seeing that in a minute. And that's and Carlos obviously thinks everything's rosy in the garden, and I'm not sure we all do. And I got called after last week's podcast. I got called doom and gloom, I think, and I don't see it being like that. I'm just being realistic about it. I think now I'm not getting on the backs. I don't want to get on the backs. I'll never do it. Yeah. But I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it, and I just want to see us win and go up, and I don't think that's
I do get what you say, Rich, really and I think last week there was probably a large element of me playing devil's advocate a little bit last week, but I genuinely thought that you and Vic were a bit over the top last week, and that it did feel a little bit like, oh God, we've just won at Fulham, and I probably sound a bit contradictory now, because everything I've said's probably sounded a bit doom and gloom, and it's not meant to. It is meant to be productive, and it's meant to be something that we say, right, this is where we're at, and this is what we need to do now. This is where we need to be looking towards and moving, because we're in a certain place right now, and our season is I think it's hit a certain point, and I think if we come back after the international break and we continue playing in the way that we have been, then we're not really going to move very far. And I get that we are slow starters under Carlos, and that actually we've had the best start that we've had under him, but after in the third season we expected more, and I think that keeping the players that we kept, and I know I harp on about this thing about squad retention level, the highest squad retention level in the league. That means that there isn't this kind of period of getting used to each other. That team should hit the ground running, and we're miles off it at the moment. And that after Fulham, the win at Fulham's enough for you to think, all right, we're turning the corner. And actually, the performance against Fulham was all right. It wasn't amazing. It was all right. We did enough to win the game. The performance against Burton wasn't good enough. It wasn't enough to win the game. And if you continually over the course of the season turn in performances that aren't good enough to win games, you'll not win games. And if you don't win games, you're not going to go anywhere. And that's what's worrying me at the moment a little bit is, this international break's dead important now. We've got 2 weeks that's really important. We've got to regroup. We've got a couple more faces through the door. We've got a couple of centre halves in, and maybe that means that we can look at the style that we play. A lot of people on Twitter talking about playing 3 at the back and whether that's something that we do. But
I hope so.
I don't think we can come back after the international break and just have more of the same, because I think the fans will start to turn. A lot already are, but I think fans that are generally pretty level-headed, and I probably include myself in that, will ultimately start to turn and just say, right, this just isn't working. And when that happens, there's only really one answer. There's only really one solution to it that you can really do, and that's the worry right now. And like I said, it concerns me that Carlos doesn't seem to see the things that we see. And I think the time's come now for Carlos just to be honest in his post-match interviews and just say, yeah, that wasn't right, and I know why, I know what's wrong, and I'm going to sort it. Not kind of like, oh well, we were unlucky, the referee was against us. Well, you get games like that when the referee's against you. When you've got players like that on the pitch, it shouldn't matter. You should still be able to win them.
Looking at obviously one of the things that Carlos said referred to the Westwood. I'm going to say foul, even though it wasn't really given as a foul. Do you guys think this was a foul? The ref had a clear view of this, and to me, it was a chuffing assault, never mind a foul. Did you guys see that the same? Or
at the game, it didn't really look like much. It just looked like they kind of clattered together. Watching it back, I think it's been fairly well documented what people have said about it, and the fact that it wasn't a great challenge, and if the referee sees it from the right angle, it probably is a red card.
You were looking straight at the chuffing thing. I honestly don't know how I missed it. I mean, one of the things that Carlos did say after, and I don't know if you guys see this as an excuse or if it's what Carlos actually means, but he did say that the having to bring Westwood off and obviously put Mr. Wildsmith on cost him a substitution, which we all know towards the end of the game, Carlos likes to freshen things up, and that's why we've been so successful at the end of games at some points throughout Carlos's reign. Can that be used as a, well, for the want of a better term, an excuse, or do you think that's a genuine I can't say tactics, can I? Chuff a duck that Carlos actually employs?
If he's picking his best 11, it shouldn't be an issue, And was something I called for last week was a bit of continuity, and he kept the same side, which, is a start for me. We do need to get some consistency throughout the players we're picking.
What you're saying is Carlos listened to you, and it all chuffed up. So is this your fault, Rich?
No, I'm no manager. No, I'm no manager, am I? I'm just some guy does a bit of social media, and that's about me, That's
some middle class pork pie munching mother chuffer.
Hey, listen to munching.
But there are some positives to be taken from the game as well. Let's not be all doom and gloom, because Hooper's goal was bloody beautiful, wasn't it?
It was.
Cheeky little backheel,
wasn't it? If that was in the Premier League, you'd be seeing it on promos for years.
Absolutely. It was a thing of beauty. And it was that good, I think even Hooper was surprised. Because when he scored, he just sort of turned around and put his hand down. I went, yay, didn't it? It was so strange. There was no running, no jumping.
In that really camp way, yeah?
Yay! Yeah. I've scored a brilliant goal. Because that's how Hooper talks. But Hooper, actually, I thought he had a fantastic game all around, didn't he? I mean, he was fighting in the middle of the pitch. Some of the breakouts, there were people trying to push him about, and he just used his weight and strength and just knocked them to the floor, and all fairly, of course. But I just thought he had such a good game, and that's Hooper we really need to see now, isn't it? And I can't really see past at the moment Hooper and Fletcher up front starting. I know people have been saying it, but there is obviously the Rhodes issue. are we spending £8 million on a striker to come off the bench?
I said this last week. On paper, for me, it should be Rhodes and Hooper, but in a minute, it's Hooper and Fletcher who've got the shirts and deserve it.
Yep, they work well together, don't they?
Absolutely.
I think we at the moment, the way that we're playing, suits having that target man, and Fletcher is probably one of the best in the league, isn't he? At that, and Hooper does offer something different. I've kind of said a couple of times before that I really like this idea of seeing Hooper, Fletcher and Winall, because I think that Winall does something different. I think that Hooper and Fletcher are the kind of players that they can have a good game but not score a goal. Like they can actually come off the pitch thinking, I've played well today, and not score. Winall is one of those players that if he doesn't score, it doesn't matter how he plays, it's not been a good game for him. He is desperate to score every time he plays, and he will run and chase everything. And I think that that's something different. That offers us something different. And playing those three in some way in the same team, you could even play Winall kind of wide. Then that gives us an extra sort of dimension. If the rumours that we're hearing now,
I was just about to say, if you look at the rumours now,
if they're true, then this is probably irrelevant anyway, because it looks like Winall's on his way out. But you'll just have to hang on, see whether you hear the klaxon for any confirmation on that one.
Well, what does the klaxon sound like, Jay? Just to make sure we know.
Oh, hang on.
Get the right one. Get the right one.
I think this is actually the noise that used to be on Noel's house party when he released the gunge tank.
Christ, are you old enough for that? My dad told me about that one.
Yeah. The other little positive that I took out of the game as well is obviously when Westwood did go, and of course we don't want to see Westwood injured, and he did post some photos on social media about the state his leg was in, and fingers crossed it looks like he's going to be okay. There doesn't seem to be any ligament damage, hopefully, so far, so that's all good. It does look as though he might miss his chance to play for the Republic in the qualifiers as well, which is obviously a massive shame for Westwood. But when Wildsmith came on, I thought he played really quite well. I thought he made some cracking saves, and obviously at the beginning of the season I mentioned I was a little bit worried, but he's proven me wrong so far, and I'm really glad that he has. I think he played really well as well.
Yeah, Wildsmith, we've always been kind of blessed, I think, with reasonably good keepers or really good keepers, either in the Howard number 1 shirt or the backup, and at the minute we've got a kind of good Westwood, Wildsmith, Dawson. We've got some decent keepers in there to fall back on if one of them's injured.
And worst comes to the worst, I'm always happy to put on my keeper jersey. You'll see me diving about.
We'll get by. There's always
got
Andy Rhodes. Yeah.
We've got Hutch. Even with one leg, he'd probably still go in the net, wouldn't he, Hutch?
Yeah.
He'd say I could do that.
I've been much better than Lord H as well. Yeah.
How rude!
Probably better than Chris Woods as well, to be fair.
That's another story for another time. So yes, the Burton game was a disappointing result. Yes, there are questions that do need to be answered, and hopefully we'll be able to answer those after the international break. Right then, chaps. Now I know probably bits of this, what we're about to talk about now, will probably be utterly irrelevant, because there are lots of rumours flying around. We've all seen them. We've all had our comments to them as well. But again, when people are actually listening to this, it's all done and dusted.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll be all the stuff we're going to talk about in a minute. It'll be absolutely irrelevant.
But I would like to hear you guys' views on what would happen if. Okay, so obviously the big one is Forestieri, and there are rumours bouncing about here, there, and everywhere. There are 2 clubs interested. The first sort of estimates for bids and things, and of course this is all pure speculation because we don't actually know, we're around about £12 million.
All the way up to 20 I've seen mentioned as well.
Well, my red and brown sources tell me that apparently Wednesday were holding out for 20, which is again utter speculation and nonsense. I don't know if any of this is true. But then, obviously, Fulham have had some issues trying to get one of the players that they wanted, so now they're apparently looking to bid £17 million for Fessy. Now, first of all, if somebody came in with 12, would you snatch your hand off for Fessy right now?
17, yes.
do you know this transfer window, right? It's been mental, and I know everyone said it, but I honestly can't figure out what a good transfer fee for any player is anymore. you know, when you've got what did I see earlier on? Was it Nelson Oliveira? Is that his name? 12 million quid. And I know, you know, he scored a few goals last season, but he was fairly hopeless when he was at Forest the season before. You know, he's not amazing. If he's worth 12 million, maybe Forestieri is 20 million. I just don't understand it. I can't figure it out.
The weirdest one for me was 92 million for Lamar, and I thought he just come second or third on some talent competition. I didn't realise he was, you know, worth 92 million quid.
You know,
that's the
it
best
rubs off
gets
on you as well, doesn't it? Because when I saw what did I see? When I saw Oxlade-Chamberlain 35 million, I thought, oh, that's a good bit of business, 35 million. And you're like, it's 35 million pounds, but like compared to some of the other stuff, you're like, that's not bad.
I mean, this Lamar that was going to Arsenal for 92, that's now not. Well, I'd never even bloody heard of him. And that might be me a bit naive, but I'd never heard of him. And is he that good a player to be paying nearly 100 million quid for? Absolutely not.
Yeah, it is silly money that's been banned around. But at the same point, if silly money is going to come our way and it's going to solve our issues with the keeping our wage bills down, being able to obviously have some extra money, because anything that comes in transfers, am I right in saying that we can use that as profit for the club, so it goes towards financial fair play? So that is money we have to spend, money we have to sort of hang on back for players' wages, that kind of thing. And let's face it, Festi's going to be on a fair old whack wages wise as well, isn't he? So,
but we've only got 34 minutes as it stands to spend it.
Well,
if it came in now.
This is one of those things that is irons in the fire, and this is transfer deadline day and all over. Everything has to happen nicely, shall we say. There is a chain, like a property chain, a player chain, shall we call it. And if it all happens fast. So, if, and again, massive, great big whopping if someone came on with, let's call it 15 million quid for Festi, that 15 million pound went to a very pacey winger, which do you guys agree that we need? Or what would you like to see this money spent on if we are getting rid of Forestieri?
I'd like us to spend it on a bigger cake for Owls in the Park on Sunday.
Let's not go there.
I don't think the one that we are proposing is big enough. So 20 million should get us. Well, it is, but you know, someone else can come along and still build one bigger. I think we need to think. We need to think humongous. That's what we need to think.
Would you say we need to think massive there, James?
Well, you could say that if you want. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if we, I don't know how I feel about this, because if we sign a winger, does that mean that we're going to play to the strength of a winger? Because we haven't done yet really at all, have we, under Carlos? You know, we've had
success is a rumour, isn't it? And that for me, somebody pacey, is what we've been crying out for ages. Pacey, some pace in the side, full stop. Let alone as a winger.
I'm all for it if that does mean that, you know, Carlos is now therefore thinking, right, you know, I'm going to change the way we play and we are going to get balls in the box, and that means we've got to think about where Jordan Rhodes fits into that front line as well, because he's one of the best players to have on the pitch when you know, whacking balls into the box like that. So yeah, I'm you know, my thoughts on Forestieri I made fairly clear in the summer, which is I struggle to see where he really fits in now with this team moving forward, and maybe the time is right for him to move on. I think we probably all know, if we're honest with ourselves, that he does want to go. He wants a new challenge. He's not been happy here for the last 12 months. So maybe it is the right thing for everyone. And yeah, let's bring in someone if we're going to play to their strengths. Who that is, I haven't got a clue. The Isaac Success thing's been kind of played down now in the last kind of half hour, hasn't it? So you know, I think the talk is Jacob Butterfield, and I don't really think, but for a minute, that he's the kind of player that we really need if we're talking about changing the style that we play.
Doesn't kind of light my eyes up when I think Jacob Butterfield, to be honest. Although I've just seen breaking news that Ross Barkley's turned down Chelsea, so that obviously means he's coming to Hillsborough in a swap deal for Forestieri. Yes.
Can he play on the wing?
Come on. I mean, one of the things that did sort of disappoint me quite a lot, actually, about Forestieri is a video that was put out on Saturday. I think it was Chris Holt of Star Fame that put a video out, and it was the players warming up. And Fessy just didn't look interested.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Warming up. He was just sort of flouncing round, and when the players were sort of doing that wonderful can kick up in the air move, Fessy was sort of just dragging his foot off the floor. And I just thought, you know what, Chief, if you don't bother, just
maybe the time's right, but the money's got to be right, hasn't it? You know, as well.
I mean, what did we pay for him? It wasn't a huge amount of money.
3 million.
We paid for him.
It was about $3.5 million.
Yeah. So the profit will be there. And don't get me wrong, I don't want us to get screwed on any kind of deal, but we're not going to sort of lose money, even if we sort of factor in his wages and things. I wouldn't imagine if we sort of managed to pull 10 million for him that we're going to actually lose money on it. It will free up a massive wage chunk, and we're going to have that nice little pot of gold to spend as well. Which, again, obviously, Mr. Chancery has said if he was able to, he'd whack it in himself. That financial fair play dictates that he can't, and that's what we have to be super, super careful of.
Yeah.
And this is our third year, so we have to be super careful with his financial fair play nonsense as well now at the moment, don't we? So, right.
But there's plenty of clubs out there who aren't being, you know, like Birmingham have completely. How many signed? 14 players. They're completely going for it. Wolves are completely going for it, and they could be. Not everybody can go up, so somebody's going to get stung by it. Villa are going for it. You know, so a lot of clubs spending over beyond the means at the minute.
You see the amount that Birmingham have spent just today.
Well, Birmingham are going to spend money because Harry's here, isn't he? So that's what Harry does.
He's currently sat in a car outside of speaking through the window to Sky, I think.
But no, I think looking at our club's history, we know what happens when things goes tits up with money. And of course, it wasn't too long ago when Milan came in and sort of saved us all. And do you want to see yourself put back into that sort of situation? Because I chuffing don't. I would much rather have another 2 years in the Championship and not have to go through all that crap about somebody going to be knocking on my door wanting to take my football club away from me. So, because that was a very, very worrying time, wasn't it? And obviously, people soon forget about that kind of thing. They really, really do. And I never, ever, ever want that to happen to Sheffield Wednesday ever again. So just think back.
I've got to agree with you on that.
Yeah, it is hard. It's hard to think back when we've had a little bit of success, and we want more. And I kind of get that we want more. We all do. But equally, you look back at those times when it was abhorrent the time how the club was run.
And I know it's a different time now, but I am happy that we've got somebody in charge that is going to keep an eye on this thing, is going to be sensible about it, is also going to remind us about this as well, because we do need reminding everyone again now, because we are football fans, and we just want to say, spend some money and get my club into the Premiership, and it doesn't chuffing work like that all the time. And if it doesn't work, then maybe we do need to start looking at Carlos a little bit. Of course, there's been a few little bits that have happened. Oh, sorry, Jay. I
was just going to say, I honestly think it's as simple, and I know this sounds like the kind of thing that you see someone just kind of kind of a throwaway comment on Twitter. I think the players we've got are good enough. I think we've just got to get them playing right. I think that the only reason that we're all kind of sat here on transfer deadline day wanting us to bring in so and so and so and so and so and so is just because of the fact that we're just not playing that well at the moment. I think if we'd have won if we'd have won 3 games out of the first 5 or something, then we'd probably all be sat here saying, we don't really need anyone. Maybe a couple of squad players just for a bit of kind of strength in depth. But I think it just feels like we're clutching a little bit at straws here, and maybe what we need is just to get the best out of the players we've already got. Because
I agree with that.
Surely they're good enough. Surely they're good enough.
Don't call me Shirley.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Lord H.
But we have obviously made some strides. So today, obviously, just a bit of an update. We are now at 25 to 11. So just let you know, we are keeping an eye on this business still. But the business has been done today. First of all, Mr. McGugan has finally, apparently, agreed by mutual consent to leave Sheffield Wednesday Football Club. I think we can all assume this is a good thing, can't we?
Yes.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I was going to say it's the right time, but I mean, it's a year too late, isn't it? I thought it was quite interesting. Andy Giddings from Radio Sheffield when he tweeted about it earlier, because the Radio Sheffield guys are generally fairly on the fence, aren't they? They don't tend to throw too much in way of opinion. And he said something about how McGugan leaves Wednesday, no doubt a lot wealthier after a year of doing nothing after rejecting a loan move 12 months ago, and that's as close as kind of like, you know, a BBC journalist is going to come to really having a pop at a player. And I think we've all known, haven't we, that there's questions about attitude there. I think there's questions about health there, because we all saw photos of him looking a bit on the plumper side, didn't we? It's absolutely necessary, and I'm really
after this.
I'm glad it's happened now, and I wish it had happened 12 months ago, because I think 12 months ago he'd have gone with us remembering all the good times, and he did score some really good goals for us in a season where we were pretty rubbish. And even that first season under Carlos, he had a role to play, particularly towards the start of the season. He scored that incredible goal from pretty much the halfway line, didn't he, with his back to goal against Preston. And the problem is that his career with Wednesday has been a little bit tainted now by the fact that he's kind of bled us dry for 12 months, and it's a shame that, because that is what we're going to remember, rather than remembering someone that for a period, it was only a short period, but for a period, he was a good player for us. But he's only got himself to blame. He had the opportunity to leave on loan, and he didn't want to do it. So you know what? I'm not going to lose any sleep over the fact that McGugan's leaving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I must admit though, it is a bloody crying waste of talent. It really, and that's what disappoints me about this. I'd love to know what happened.
Most footballers just want to play, don't they? But he clearly didn't.
Well, that's the thing. We that's a speculation. We don't know that. It seems that way, obviously, from the outside looking in. We don't know what happened, so we do need to be a bit careful, because I'm sure one day it'll come out. But at the same time, I mean, if we look back when we actually signed him, obviously he came on loan, and then we were begging to sign him, weren't we? We were absolutely...
Fans probably got that signing, didn't they? So
exactly.
That was...
it was amazing. And then
it.
he started that... Was it against Bristol, where he sort of cleared run off the line, and within sort of 45 seconds at the other end of the pitch and scored that goal as well, and he was just brilliant. And it must have been the first name on the tee sheet, and then just chuffing disappeared. And I would just love to know why, because he's such a talent.
No, a talented player, but he's obviously not seen eye to eye with Carlos or whoever or whatever, and we'll maybe never know. But we move on.
Do you think that's why we ended up with him from Watford? Because there was sort of rumblings of attitude issues at Watford, wasn't there?
Possibly,
as well?
yeah. Or he's just Watford supplies another player.
He's kind of been plagued with them through his career, hasn't he? Everywhere he's gone, he's kind of had an impact, and then ultimately when he's left, it's not been on all that good of terms, and maybe not quite as bad as with us. Although I mean, he was kind of just, you know, he was propping up the reserve team, wasn't he? At Watford, he wasn't all that well thought of. It's a shame. Maybe he's one of those, you kind of read sometimes, don't you, in the papers about footballers that don't like football, but they were just born with the skill to do it all right. I don't know if McGugan's maybe one of those, that he's just not that, he just doesn't like the game that much or something. I don't know. There's something that doesn't make any sense about him, and it's a real shame.
I've just got one of those feelings that in a couple of years I'll be looking back and thinking, chauffeur, because we chop bits off to do what he does, wouldn't we? We really, really would. Obviously, not important bits that we'd probably need to play football. But it's just a shame. I really, in a way, my heart breaks a little bit for it, because he had the potential to become essentially a Wednesday legend, and it's just frigging wasted, and it does my chuffing panning ungrateful little sod, possibly. So looking at a bit more positive news, obviously we've had another centre back in, and he's a great big chuffer and all, isn't he? He looks a bit like
6'5"
Glenn Leuven's 2.0, doesn't he? He's obviously a lovely Dutch fella. I'm going to have a guess.
Go on,
shall we
pronounce
call
it.
him Joost van Alken?
Ah, very good. That sounds about right to me.
Jake,
Would it be juiced or used? I don't know.
It might be a used.
Used.
Oh, you see, I've been made a fool of myself again. But I mean, I've not seen a great deal. All the things that I've read seem positive. Our friends over there at Vital Wednesday had a bit of a chat with a chap that knows a bit more about him, who was very positive about him as well. If you want to have a little read up on that, if you pop over there to Vital Wednesday, you'll read that over there as well. But hopefully it's exactly what we need. I mean, do we think these two new chaps, I don't think they're going to make the numbers up, are they? They are going to be fighting for places. Obviously, Mr. Louvens, we've spoke about before, brilliant footballer, utterly experienced, possibly just running out a bit of puff these days, but he's not always needed it because he's so clever at playing the game, isn't he? But these chaps are going to be fighting for places. They've not come to make the numbers up, have they?
I think there's a possibility of a lot of what people have been saying, and we've been asking for on the podcast for a while, for the three at the back with these guys now, with the backup of Louvens and Pudil if he needs to come into centre half. So I can see used being coming in straight in the side of Leeds. To be honest, I need a guy. I can't remember his name. Portuguese bloke being on the bench.
I'm not even
We're going to have to practice these names, aren't we? Because I don't really know them either. Words. I mean, both seem to be quite highly thought of, don't they, by various people that understand European football more than we do. And I can't particularly pretend to know that much about either of them. But what I have noticed is the fact that one of them's 23, one of them's 24. And they are good ages for a centre-back. They're really good ages for a centre-back. It gives us a chance to really develop them. They're not at the latter end of their career. Even when Glenn Louvens came to us, he was kind of towards the back end of his career, wasn't he? And we've probably got more out of him than we thought we were going to do. We've got a couple of players here who are young, and I think we've got to be a little bit patient. It might take them a little while to get fully up to speed with the league. But I think we seem to have bought two centre backs here, or certainly bought one with the other on loan with an option to buy him at the end of the season, with a view to kind of the long term. Which is, if it really works, then great. But let's say that for whatever reason this season comes and goes, we're still in the Championship 12 months from now. Then we've got a couple of players there that have really started to build their experience of the league, and that could be a really, really good thing for us. So I think that although I don't really know much about them, I've got a real positive feeling about both of them.
One of the things that sort of stuck out at me as well is obviously reading and listening to the interviews he's done since. The club still seem to be looking for ambitious players. He said in one of his interviews, "It is very important for me to join a team that was ambitious, and I want to be part of a team going up to the Premier League." So the club are still saying, look, we need players that are going to push us to the Premier League, which I think is a really, really positive thing. After all this sort of doom and gloom and all this kind of thing that we've had, they are still selling this dream to these players coming to Wednesdays that we are going up. And that's something that obviously Mr. Chanceria said when we get to the Premier League. This does still seem to be the positive message coming from the club. When it happens, it is going to happen. This is our project, and it is going to happen. I don't know if you guys are feeling that as well, or are you still sort of looking at the start of the season? Or are you sort of buying what the club's selling, if you like?
I'm not feeling positive very much at the minute. I'll be honest. I'm not. I'm just.
No, I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. No, I'm not. But I hope to be proved wrong. I'd love to be proved wrong, very, very soon. And by this time, end of September now, in a month's time, we won't even be worried about this, and we'll be flying high and not even worried.
I do hope you're right, old boy. I really, really do.
Me too.
So, I mean, one thing that I would like to quickly mention as well is, obviously, while we're speaking about centre-backs, Mr. Badil has been filling in back there, and to be perfectly honest, he's not done a really bad job, has he? I don't know if you guys have been keeping an eye on him while he's been playing back there, but I think he's been doing rather well, don't you? Do you think he's... obviously, this is something he's had to learn, and some of the defending he's done, I think, has been fantastic. I can't really complain.
He's done way better than I thought he would do. I kind of said last week that against Fulham he looked every bit the centre half, and against Burton he looked all right. I think my worry with him is I always just kind of think whether or not he's going to get found out at some point, because he's not a natural centre back, and I think he has played all right there. He's played well there, but it was always going to be a makeshift thing. So I'm hoping actually that we don't need to play him there anymore now, and that actually his stint as a centre back has been successful. Let's not push it too much, because I've kind of thought that he doesn't look all that natural there. I think he does want to move with the ball quite a lot, and that suits a fullback. and it can suit a centre back in a certain formation in certain teams, but it maybe doesn't suit us.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think it's time for him to go back to left back now, and now we've got some specialists in the centre half area.
Some specialists in the centre half area.
Correct.
Wonderful. But no, I would like to.
Don't you have a specialist in your centre half area?
I have various specialists that look after my centre half area hobby. But no, I would like to pass on my congratulations to Mr. Poodle, and I think he's done a lovely job whilst he's been doing it, because it can't have been nice for him, bless him. Right, so looking at these centre backs, obviously Richie mentioned that we've got this abundance of centre back talent now, and there has been rumblings, if you like, of playing three at the back. Do you think this is something that would possibly come about? And if so, how's that going to affect the midfield, do you think? I mean, obviously, Mr. Hunt, Mr. Fox, Mr. Badil, we've just spoke about. Are we going to see those sort of drop into the sidelines, or are we going to be using those guys?
I think it would give us the ability to play somebody in the hole, which we don't necessarily do at the minute, apart from Hooper dropping a bit deep.
Do we have a hole specialist?
Hooper.
Is he a hole specialist? Does he look at all the holes and specialise in them?
He specialises in all the holes. I'm very much very jealous of him.
He can. No, I can't say that on a podcast, can I? No, I'm not.
No, you can't. No.
You can actually say what you like on the podcast, James. Apparently, we have no rules. But yeah, you're quite right. He does do that job very, very well. That sort of link up between midfield and attack, and we saw it. His strengths there, and we know he can chuff and finish a goal as well. But specifically thinking about if we are going to be looking at sort of getting balls in the box, if we are looking at the Rhodes angle as well, are the players going to? I'll put my teeth back in, shall I? Are the players are going to do that? Is it going to be Wallace? Is it going to be maybe Hunt moving forward a little bit, or are we just going to sort of do away with this this running back altogether, if you like?
In terms of wing backs, I think that Hunt and Reach would work well as wing backs. I'm not. To be honest, the last 2-3 times I've seen Wallace play, I've been quite disappointed, and I know that there's a few people that are real big fans of his. I just don't think he's doing it at the moment, and I think we probably need to change our reliance on him a little bit, and I think we need to look at some of the other options that we've got. Boyd might be able to work as a wing back as well. Carlos sees these players in training every day. He should know the answer to these questions a hell of a lot more than us than we do. The fact that we've been out and bought two, he should do. Yeah, we've bought two defenders. We could have got away with just buying one, but we've bought two. And does that mean that we are serious about playing three at the back now, moving forward? I don't know. Carlos seems to be a 4-4-2. Game in, game out, whatever happens kind of player, and that just.
I think it's the right time to give it a whirl, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, no, I don't think he will.
So we're looking at what are we now? Just shy of 10 to 11. Have we had any movement or anything on the social media channels?
No, nothing at all. Yeah, still the Butterfield Winnell one's strong. Obviously, we've got a couple of kids going out on loan, which is quite. I think, is quite good for their development. Which was one was announced early today, which was Sean Clare, wasn't it, going to Gillingham on loan till January, I think it was. So that's a good one for his career, I think.
He only had to sign a new contract, didn't he, in July, I think it was. So obviously the club, hopefully, looking to. Did he come from the Nike Academy originally, Mr. Clare? Absolutely. He did. Yeah. And he does look like a cracking prospect. And again, we've said it a million times on the podcast, but we can't moan about chaps going out and getting blooded by some great big dirty men trying to beat them up and that kind of thing. Hopefully, he'll not meet a whole specialist while he's out there. Otherwise, it'll be a different story altogether.
And there's Jordan Thornley has gone to Accrington Stanley, hasn't he, on loan as well until. Is that till the end of the season or January? I'm not sure. Can't find it.
To where? Sorry.
Yeah. What did I say? Accrington Stanley. Who were they?
Who were they?
Exactly.
Wasn't it?
Oh, there's a lot of young. Well, there's probably not any young people listening to this, but there are plenty of people listening to what the chuff are those two old men on about?
Exactly.
Get off! Give me some. Get off! But no, it's. Yes, it was when the whole specialist came to visit.
Anyway.
Right then. So yes. Brilliant news. Now the other sort of rumour that's been passed about as well is about Mr. Rhodes possibly going. Now, to me, this is utter buncombe nonsense. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
Yeah,
Yes.
This seems to have gone very quiet in the last couple of hours, and I don't know. I think there's probably a couple of teams that have inquired. I've always kind of thought I'm not sure why we would let him go right now, unless we'd kind of, you know, if Carlos and the chairman sat down and the chairman said, "There's no way in the world I'm getting rid of you. You are here for the season," and Carlos says, "Well, I'm not changing the style that we play," and then they said, "Well, in which case, there's no point in keeping Rhodes because he doesn't fit with what we're doing at the moment." So if that's happened, then it would make some degree of sense that we move him on. I can't see it. You know, we know that this guy can score goals, and when you look at, I said this earlier, you look at the transfer fees that players are moving for in this transfer window, and you look back with, you know, it's 8 million quid there or thereabouts that we played for Rhodes. That starts to look like an absolute bargain for someone that scored the number of goals that he's scored in this league. We've just got to play to his strengths. That's what we've got to do. So yeah, I'll be glad if we get to 11 o'clock and he's still a Wednesday player, because I think that's the right thing, and I think he's got a real role to play for us now moving forward. I think we've just got to, as we said earlier, we've just got to get things right.
There's a great tweet I've just read from Paddy Jones, who Lord H knows very well of New York Elves. He's really for some perspective today, SWFC fans. Here's what I was boasting out 5 years ago, and he was in his tweet from 2012. He was boasting about Jay Bothroyd, Rodri, and Medine. How times have changed.
Absolutely. And I
Rodri.
must admit, Paddy obviously is a very good friend of mine, and we used to play football together a lot as a child, and he is definitely a hole specialist as well. So if you need your hole specialising, go and see old Paddy over there at the New York Elves. Oh, Paddy. Now, the other sort of, I mean, looking through the Twitterage, so in the last sort of half an hour or so, Mr. Staunton, Rob from Radio Sheffield has put out a potential swap for Jacob Butterfield with Sam Winnall at obviously SWFC. If that was to come about, do you guys think that would be advantageous from a Sheffield Wednesday point of view if we were to swap Sam Winnall for Butterfield?
I've been monitoring the response to this on social media as we've been recording the podcast this evening, and I don't think I'm exaggerating if I was saying 95% of people seem to be dismissing this as a pretty bad deal for us. Jacob Butterfield doesn't seem to be all that well thought of by Derby fans. Although, you know, some fans of his previous clubs have kind of stuck up for him. It seems like it's just one of those that hasn't really worked out for him at Derby. He doesn't seem to fit in all that well there. I mean, he was a £5 million player when they signed him. So you know, the guy's obviously got something about him. If I remember correctly, he once scored at Hillsborough, but it wasn't given when he was playing for Middlesbrough, and they'd not scored for about something like 28 games or something stupid. Last game of the season, or towards last game of the season, and he had a shot from about 30 yards or something. It hit one post, it blatantly crossed the line, and then it hit the other post and came back out, and it wasn't given. And that's my overriding memory of him. He scored at Hillsborough, but on paper he hasn't scored at Hillsborough.
That's one more memory than I've got of him.
Yeah. And I said earlier about Winnall, and I think Winnall seems to be popular among Wednesday fans, which is strange because he's not done a massive amount while he's been at us, but you know, the kid's got a real work rate, hasn't he? And he seems to he seems to do the thing that fans really like, which is that he works from the first minute to the last minute, and fans really appreciate that. And I think every team needs that kind of player, and that's why earlier I was saying that I'd really like to see him playing game in, game out as part of a kind of a front sort of three with Hooper and Fletcher, because he is the one that puts in that shift and chases everything and runs at players and scares them and screams at them and stuff like that. So I would be pretty disappointed if Winnall left. That said, we've got this embarrassment of riches in attack. And you know, it's probably not a surprise that one of the strikers is gonna go, or that one of the strikers wants to go, because they maybe realise that they're not going to get much of a look in this season. So I don't know. I'm trying to view it as a positive thing, but for me, I'm just not sure that it's all that good. I don't see the point in it, to be honest. I don't see why we need a player like Jacob Butterfield.
The only name that's kind of made me think, "Oh, that'd be great," is like the Isaac Success. It just kind of seems to have petered out a little bit in the last couple of hours, but earlier in the evening was quite strong. That's the only one that kind of think, "Oh yeah, that that's the kind of player we'd kind of want." Apart from that, meh.
We are. I mean, where we are now, it's 5-11 now. So, I mean, do we say it's looking increasingly like the fact that Fernando Forestieri is still going to be a Wednesday player? Come the Forest game in a week and a half's time. To be honest, I kind of resigned myself to the fact that it would go this window. So I've been thinking all the time about how we work around that and what difference that makes to us. If we're waking up tomorrow and we've still got Forestieri, is that a real big bonus for us? Even if we're not necessarily starting him every game, does that give us that option that we're kind of talking about? Well, we need to try and sign a player who's a bit like this. Maybe if we keep Forestieri, then maybe that does that. Hang on a second. Oh. Sorry, as I've been rambling there. Confirmation, Sam Winnall has gone to Derby on loan until the end of the season, and Jacob Butterfield on loan in the opposite direction. So it is only a loan deal rather than being permanent. So it's just one player coming this direction on loan, one player going in that direction on loan. So yeah, there we go.
As I was saying, I think Butterfield is a fantastic option for Sheffield Wednesday. I can remember everything he's ever done at Hillsborough, and I cannot wait to see him in the Wednesday shirt. But to be honest, I do think obviously the loan option is brilliant because Mr. Winnall is probably going to get a lot more football there. Do you think? Do you think because he's aching to play, isn't he? He's a young lad. He generally does want to just get on that pitch and show what he can do, as we saw when he scored the other day. And he did his arms out to the crowd, or possibly to a particular player that wasn't on the bench that day. So he does love playing football, and he does love to show what he can do. Maybe not really getting that at the minute, is it?
Like I said at Bolton, I thought they seemed on the pitch. It might have been I was looking for something that wasn't there, but it seemed like they weren't kind of happy around each other, and maybe this will be some Forestieri, maybe a little bit ease him, make him happier. I don't know, and take an issue out of the club potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a fair point, because if there is friction between players and it is rubbing off on the team, a rubbing off specialist, and that element has now been removed, then yeah, brilliant. But let's hope that he does improve while he's at Derby. Not too much, of course, because Derby are a threat for this season. But he does come back to Sheffield Wednesday, if that is going to be the case. Is there any particular, I know it's very unlikely, but have we got any particular details about the loan? Are these just one way, one the other way? Anything about maybe possible signings at the end of the season? Anything at all like that? Or is this just
it doesn't mention anything
about the article. No, I'm trying to read the article on the website in a minute, but there's nothing. No, doesn't say anything like that.
Fantastic. And let's face it, we all know that Mr. Winnall is a prospect, a chuffing, great, big, lovely prospect as well. So hopefully he'll come back all guns blazing. Of course, we do have a few other strikers that we've not seen much of. Mr. Zhao, have we just forgotten about him completely now? Because again, I was really excited about Zhao.
That was a big rumour earlier in the day that he was one of those that was definitely going to go. He's just not fulfilled his potential, has he? I don't think.
Has he had the opportunity to? Do you think? Obviously, with all these other strikers coming in, because he did score that lovely goal against Burton, which made us all very, very happy at that time, and it was a sort of a one-on-one with the keeper and slotted it away very nicely. But then he did, I don't know, we had that little sort of issue with him where he might not have been as professional as he could have been, and those sorts of things, didn't we?
I'm not sure the English games. He's very laid back, very relaxed, He's not the kind that English games are a bit more frantic. And I don't think it's really his game, to be honest.
He's not a frantic chap.
No, and it's maybe time for us to kind of, but we'll, 2 minutes to go. Who knows what will happen?
Dun, dun, dun.
It's less than that. It's coming up to hang on, 1 minute to go. Exactly 1 minute to go. Although it's all nonsense, isn't it? Because a lot of the deals are done in the last minute that we don't find out about for another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can really see us doing anything else now. I think that's probably it. I think that we've probably not had the offer in for Forestieri that we wanted. Guys, while I remember as well, I thought, it's been, a heavy transfer window for us. Emotionally it's taken its toll. So I thought probably the only way that we could possibly end the transfer window in the last 30 seconds is like this.
Are we allowed to play this, Jay? Are we not going to get sued for any kind of issues?
Yeah, we'll probably get sued, but it just felt like the right way that we end it.
Am I right in saying that if we review it, it's classed as a review and we're not using it properly? So I've always thought that this music is fantastic, and that's my review of this.
Have you got a big gate closing sound at the end as well?
There we go.
Dropped a bomb, Westwood!
Rap.
Well, nothing happened in that final 30 seconds, so there we go.
Do I think that's
apart from the use of Sky's headline for signing Butterfield, utterly Butterfield.
Oh, congratulations. I bet that's the work of Mr. Garrido. You can guarantee it. Now, am I right in saying that clubs do have a certain length of time to finish off paperwork?
Correct.
Yeah.
When is that length of time? Is that sort of next hour or so? Or?
I think you do get until midnight, don't you? Yeah, to do it, and then you could apply for an extension, can't you? And obviously that's sort of what happened with us 6 months ago with Jordan Rhodes, or it's more than 6 months ago, isn't it? But whenever it was. So yeah, you can. An
intention. I think as long as you've proved an intention to sign them. Yeah.
You need to have, there's certain things you need to have done before the deadline, and then you've got a while to kind of complete the paperwork. I can't see it, to be honest. I can't see anything changing for us now. I think that's going to be it. I think that Rhodes is still a Wednesday player, Forestieri is still a Wednesday player, and I've got to admit I'm surprised by that. And maybe we've got an extra option in midfield that maybe we need. I don't know. Maybe.
One thing that I am super happy about is that Dave is still a Wednesday player as well. And I know you guys love him as much as I do, really.
Hang on, have I got some tumbleweed on my soundboard? Let me have a look. No, I need to get some tumbleweed.
I know you have to show another view because we're on the podcast, but we all know that you'll be going to bed tonight and you'll be laying on your big Dave pillows and you'll have your big Dave pajamas on.
I've never called Paul that before. Big Dave pillows.
Yes, you have. I've heard you.
Bring me those big Dave pillows, baby.
But no, it's I know it sounds silly, but he has become a last 10-minute specialist, hasn't he? And I've said it a million times. I love him to bits. I'm so happy he's still at the club. One thing that did make me laugh, and I am going to have to find this because it was absolutely hilarious. I stuck a little tweet out early on this morning saying, "Oh, please, goodness, obviously deadline day. Let's hope that we just manage to keep hold of Dave." And I need to find this tweet because it is utterly hilarious. I shan't be a second or two. There we go. John Hetherington sent a lovely reply. I wanted to give the chap a shout out because it was hilarious. Says, "Don't worry, we don't need Dave anymore because now Zeus can put the trimmings up this year. We've got somebody as tall." That actually got me in trouble for laughing at it. So thank you for that, Mr. Hetherington. Absolute pleasure. So, chaps, best bit of business this transfer window. What do you think it is?
What general offer?
This transfer window.
Swansea, probably. Swansea with their signing today from Bayern Munich, and I'm forgetting his name.
Chuff Swansea right up the whole special.
Well, you didn't. We hadn't done any business, particularly.
It's a Sheffield Wednesday podcast.
Oh, right.
So, personally, to start you off, I think the best bit of business is Mr. McGugan no longer on the payroll.
Okay. I'm going to go with the 7 foot centre back.
Used.
Because I think that he's going to be really good for us. Although actually, I mean, let's not forget the fact that technically this transfer window we did sign Jordan Rhodes, and any other time if we'd not have had him on loan beforehand, we'd been going mental about that. So
and Boyd as well in this window.
Yeah, Boyd. I still have this feeling come the end of the season that I've got a feeling that Rhodes will have a good season.
Yes. So do I.
Yes, I sincerely hope they play to his strengths. And I think Rhodes, without a second thought, can score 20 goals a season minimum.
Absolutely. Right then, chaps. So, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you, gents, because we've done a lot of chuffing filling tonight, and I think we've done it really rather well with very little to speak about. Rich, if people do want to see your Big Dave pillows over there on the Twitterage, where can we do that?
Hopefully, Paula won't be allowing Paula's Big Dave pillows to go onto the internet. They're just for my eyes. So anyway, Dickie Owl, you can find me at Dickie Owl. No fun pillows, big pillows on there.
Get over to Dickie Owl and demand to see his Big Dave pillows. Jamesy Albeen, if people want to find out how much of a clever guy you really are, where can we do that? Over there on the Twitter?
Well, I'll tell them.
Clever guy. He's a clever guy.
You can find me at James Marriott, and I think Rich, is your plan still to make an appearance at the Peddler Market on Saturday? In a break from our football.
That is yes.
Ism. So anyone that's at Peddler on Saturday, keep an eye out for us. Wandering round, probably staggering round. Let's be fair.
I'll also be at Owls in the Park and Owls in the Dark with Vic. Even though she thought she was going to make her own, I'll be around. Watching the blue and white fireworks and getting really excited about a big cake.
I'll bet Vic's got some Big Dave pillows hid away somewhere. Of course. And where can we sort of follow your shenanigans over there on the Twitterage? Jamesy, have you told us once? Have I
Me?
Just,
I have. I'll tell you again. It's at James Marriott, or you can do it via my agent, which is at Colin Murray.
Just one more time, can you just remind us what Colin did say on the Five football show?
God.
Absolutely.
James does the Wednesday week podcast. He's a clever guy. He knows the team inside out.
He knows the team inside out. What does that mean? Is it something you need to tell us?
He's never spoke to him once in my life. Never even tweeted him. It's amazing he knows all this about me.
Yeah, absolutely.
He thinks better of me than I think of myself.
The thing is, obviously, since the Wednesday Week podcast was named on Channel 5, clearly we're going to get a flurry of new listeners. And this is the first podcast we're going to listen to. You poor chuffers. I apologise. Normally we do have much more better things to speak about than this. I am sorry. But James really is a clever guy, I promise you.
Finally, just one more thing to add. I will also be at the dinner on Monday night at Hansfield. So if anybody's around, come and say hello.
Hey, drunken interviews. You've not done any drunken interviews yet, Rich. I think you are drunken interview correspondent for the week ahead.
Do you know the only person I'd really want to have my picture taken with on Monday night is John Hawkes.
Absolutely.
Mick Lyons I've done before.
Seriously, that's the challenge for it. If you can get a 5-minute chat with John Hawkes, then you are my new hero.
Or if you can get John Hawkes to do his remember on the 90s videos when he used to jump in front of the camera and go blah, like that. Just get into that noise. Just get into that noise and I'll be more than happy. Tell him Lord Hillsborough sent you. We were having a chat.
I will do my very best to do that.
Of course, if you'd like to get hold of me over there on the Twitterage, you can do that at Lord H. That's L0RD_H. You can get hold of the podcast at TWWcast. And of course, we are over there on the online age now as well at, I'm going to have a guess, www.thewednesdayweek.co.uk. All right, Jay?
Yeah, that's good. It's always like listening to my dad reading out a website address. I kind of
www.
Sometimes one week I expect you to go https://
I am. The only reason I say the W's is because while I'm doing that, I can try and remember the rest. It's really easy to remember as well. I don't know why I forget it every week. It's not like
WednesdayWeek.co.uk. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a gentleman of a certain age. You leave me alone. Of course, it has been a pleasure as always, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Be good, be safe, and we will play you out with this special number created just for James.
James does the Wednesday Week podcast. James does the Wednesday Week podcast. James does the Wednesday Week podcast. He's a clever guy, knows the team inside out. James a clever guy. James a clever guy. James a clever guy. He knows the team inside out. James a clever guy. James a clever guy. James a clever guy. James does the Wednesday Week podcast.